Democrat now, and Congressman Subramanyam, the Democrat from Virginia's 10th District, with us live from Capitol Hill. Congressman, thank you for being part of our conversation today. This discharge petition will hit the floor. We will also go over the cliff. What happens then?
Well, we'll see. I believe we'll be able to vote on this at some point. I don't know if it'll be before the end of the year. But I know that there are Republicans, more than 4 Republicans, who have supported the ACA tax credit extensions and understand that without them, healthcare costs will go up for millions of Americans, including many in their district. And so, yes, we do have a cost issue when it comes to healthcare. Healthcare costs way too much right now. We need to do a lot to fix that. But the solution to the cost issue isn't what Republicans are putting forward, which is to take away care to a lot of people. Access to care, quality of care, that's their solution, and that's not a real solution because people will die under that solution. We have a solution where we can continue to figure out a long-term solution, but in the meantime, also fund these tax credits that have been so essential to so many Americans getting health care access.
Well, it's interesting that you mentioned that because a solution is going to have to follow a gap of some sort, right? It's clear that we will go over the cliff. This discharge petition would bring a vote to the floor. I'm guessing, Congressman, correct me if I'm wrong, likely mid-January. Then something's got to happen with the Senate, and I know that there's a bill over there that's not too far apart from what the moderates have been looking at in the House with a smaller extension and some eligibility requirements. When could there be a law? How long will voters need to wait?
Well, remember, for there to be a law, the president needs to sign it, right? And so, yes, the Senate needs 60 votes to pass it. This president has not shown a willingness. Not only that, he shut down the government so that we wouldn't have a conversation about these tax credits. We had that conversation anyway, but he still refused to reopen the government and have this conversation about health care. So I am a little pessimistic about these tax credits passing, but I'm still going to push forward. I know my colleagues are not going to stop. Colleagues now on both sides of the aisle are not going to stop until we make sure that health care is affordable for millions of Americans.
Well, this is where I ask you what you're hearing, behind the scenes. What's happening in the cloakroom when you talk to other Republicans? Because clearly, you already said it. It's more than 4 here. What would this vote look like if it actually hit the floor? How many Republicans do these 4 members speak for?
Well, I know far more than 4 want to vote for them. I would say dozens want to vote for them. But the reality is when Donald Trump calls them, they switch their votes based on what Donald Trump says. Now we have 4 Republicans who've changed their tune. And so maybe that could embolden more to follow. But this speaker and this Republican Congress has followed whatever Donald Trump has said to do. And the Epstein files, even by the end, he said to vote for it. And so that's what they did. But we're at a place now where Republicans are starting to break away from Donald Trump because they know that he's toxic to our country and to even their party.
Well, I know he's also got a lot of loyal members up there, Congressman, so it was a pretty remarkable moment when so many Republicans put their name on a discharge petition to release the Epstein files. We haven't talked about this for a minute because that got the clock ticking. I think it was 30 days. Friday's the day that the files are supposed to be released. And yes, the president did sign that discharge petition, now law. Congressman, you're on the Oversight Committee. Should Americans prepare for this release, or is there going to be some reason at the 11th hour why they are not made public?
My crystal ball is foggy. I will say this, that if they do release something, I believe it'll not be a full release, that it'll be a partisan release. They'll try to find Democratic names in it. But if the president hasn't released the files by now, I don't think he will release the full files like he promised he did during his campaign last year, or that he's required by law to do now. I'm a little skeptical at this point. If they wanted to release the files, they could have released it well before this coming Friday if they really wanted to be transparent with the American people.
It is coming at the last hour. Is there anything that the Oversight Committee can do to further compel the Attorney General to make this public?
Well, now, the Oversight Committee, we have had a subpoena out for these files for 4 months now, and they gave us one production that was 97% public documents. The other 3% weren't that helpful, and then that was it. And then there was radio silence for them. Now we're at a point where this is law, and so someone can go to court, and the courts can compel the administration to release the files, and we'll see if the administration wants to ignore court orders. We've had that conversation this year before.
Well, we're about, 48, 72 hours away from that being the case. Congressman, you must have seen this Susie Wiles interview. I can only imagine the conversations among members of the Oversight Committee. The White House Chief of Staff telling Vanity Fair that the president was just wrong when he invoked Bill Clinton as being complicit in the sex trafficking scandal surrounding Jeffrey Epstein. She said there was absolutely no evidence pointing to that. Will we hear from the Justice Department that it's an ongoing investigation all the while, and therefore these files cannot be released?
Again, the Justice Department works for the president at this point. He controls it, and he's going to try to control what's released and how it's released. Another thing that she said in that interview was Trump is in the files, and that, he and Epstein were friends, and they were, I think, playboys together, single playboys together. And so it's pretty clear that there was a close relationship there, and that must be part of the reason why he hasn't released the files. That's at least what I see from my vantage point. But I'm glad she did that interview, because it was pretty incredible how, she said all the quiet parts out loud about this president.
Well, interesting moment. He's going to be speaking to the nation this evening, Congressman, and I'm wondering your thoughts about another potential government shutdown. You're in Virginia, teeming with federal workers who just endured the longest federal shutdown in American history. Is there anything the president can say this evening to get the health care debate back on track and keep the government from shutting down when we run out of money at the end of January?
Yeah, the president can say, I want to work across the aisle to come up with a health care solution that's long-term. And in the meantime, we can pass these tax subsidies to be able to help Americans afford health care. I think that alone will solve 90% of the problems we're having right now on Capitol Hill related to health care. I think the other thing he should do is try to figure out how to work together with us next year, because otherwise 2026 is going to be a long year. I do not want a shutdown. I did not like this past shutdown, but we have to continue to fight for the American people.
Well, 25 was a pretty long year, Congressman, so I guess we'll find out together. Thank you for being back with us on Bloomberg TV and radio. Live from Capitol Hill, Congressman Subramanyam, the Democrat from Virginia, with us here on Balance of Power.